Today we're going to break down a horrific tragedy that happened in Jaipur. It involves the dumper truck crash that left the entire city in shock. We're going to go way beyond the headlines to really understand not just what happened, but how. How could one single driver cause so much devastation? And more importantly, what does this whole incident tell us about the much bigger problems in our road safety systems?
First, let's just start with the human cost, because it's absolutely staggering. 14 people lost their lives. Just gone. And it wasn't just a single crash. This truck plowed through 17 other vehicles in a terrifying chain reaction. This was not an accident. It was, for all intents and purposes, a mass casualty event caused by one out-of-control truck. So let's dig in. How does a totally normal Monday afternoon on a busy city road just explode into a scene of absolute devastation? Okay, so picture this. It's around 1 p.m. on Sikar Road in Jaipur. According to people who were there, this dumper truck just started driving erratically, swerving right into oncoming traffic. It was just instant chaos, creating this domino effect of collisions. Now, as investigators started to piece together the moments right before the crash, they found something truly chilling. What they uncovered suggests this was no mere accident. The timeline reveals a sequence of deliberate, unbelievably reckless actions. It seems to have all started with some kind of argument with another driver. But instead of just moving on, the truck driver does something insane. He overtakes the car and then deliberately swerves into the wrong side of the road, and then he just floors it. For 700 meters, that's nearly half a mile, speeding directly into oncoming traffic. Just imagine that. People driving along, having no idea what's about to hit them. So this obviously raises the huge question. Who was behind the wheel? The entire investigation has zeroed in on this one person, his state of mind, and his history.
Well, we have a name. The driver has been identified as Kalyan Meena. He was arrested right there at the scene, and, as you can imagine, he's at the center of a massive police investigation now. So what are the police really focusing on here? What could possibly explain his actions? Well, it looks like there are three main lines of inquiry. First, was he drunk? That's the big one. They've taken blood samples and are waiting on the toxicology reports. Second, the sheer speed of the truck. CCTV footage confirms he was just flying, turning this massive vehicle into an uncontrollable weapon. And third, and this part is just a huge red flag, a look into his past revealed he already had a case against him for rash and negligent driving from earlier this year, so this wasn't his first time. And this is where the story gets so much bigger. Because as horrific as this one event is, it's also like a magnifying glass, exposing these deep, systemic problems in our road safety and traffic enforcement that go far beyond just one driver. You know, this incident brings home a terrifying reality. One person in one heavy vehicle can inflict damage on the scale of a major disaster. And that forces us to look past the driver's actions for a second and ask a much tougher question. What did this system do wrong to even allow this to happen? This crash has just thrown so many systemic failures into the spotlight. You've got this pervasive culture of driving in the wrong lane. You've got the clear danger of having high-speed, heavy vehicles like this on busy city roads. There's an obvious failure to monitor driver fitness and history. I mean, come on, this driver had a prior offense. And finally, it points to these glaring gaps in law enforcement and maybe even road design that just fail to prevent this kind of behavior. So what happens now? Let's take a look at the immediate aftermath and what steps are being taken towards some kind of accountability. The official response has been swift. The driver is under arrest, and the authorities are actually considering a very serious charge, basically causing death through a reckless act, even if he didn't intend to kill. Of course, the truck has been seized, and his driver's license is being permanently revoked. But beyond the official actions, there's a huge public outcry building. People are demanding real, actual change. They don't just want punishment for one driver, they want a complete overhaul of how heavy vehicles are regulated and a much stricter enforcement culture to make sure this never, ever happens again. And that really brings us to the final and most challenging question. Look, it's easy to blame one person's terrible decisions, but when a driver with a known history of reckless behavior can get behind the wheel of a heavy truck, possibly drunk, and drive unimpeded on the wrong side of the road, you have to ask, where does the responsibility truly lie? Is it with the driver alone, or is it also with the system that completely failed to stop him? And that's the tough question we're all left with.